rumors he was into field hockey players.
Interesting. That documentary was so strange. Stop Making Sense.
Mm-hmm.
Such an.
Amazing.
As an artist, we could spend all day talking about him as an artist. What a great weirdo. Just one of the best.
Man, I wish I would have. So he wrote a book called what was it called? This Is Music, or I think it was called something like This Is Music. I wish I had that book when I was like 18.
Or it's called How Music Works.
How Music Works.
Yeah.
I wish I had that book when I was 18 because
David Byrne. Yeah.
For some reason when I was a teenager, and even in my 20s, even at the height of my music career, I didn't internalize that creativity was the name of the game. Like that was the game that we were playing. To do something different than everybody else, even though there was part of me that was still trying to do what other people wanted or what other people were trying to do. It's a weird thing that you go through that I didn't learn until I'm older. And it gives me a lot of pleasure. It gives me a lot of hope to think that now that I know that, oh man, the things that I can do now. So.
Wow. Well, yeah. So one of my book reading hacks is to Google the quotes on a site called Goodreads. The first one for David Byrne that comes up is great. It says, "Sometimes it's a form of love just to talk to somebody that you have nothing in common with and still be fascinated by their presence."
Interesting.
That quote is so good. In terms of, Twitter and Clubhouse and just the digital media world that you and I both live in. Staying interested in other people and just the reality of their lives. That's what poetry is also about, right? The stuff I was sending you earlier about like the old haiku poets from ancient Japan. It's like, well, they were just in houses in the winter looking out at rain and snow falling on leaves. It's like they were where we are. It's a reminder of the eternal present.
Man, you could almost build a social media app around that quotation.
Well, again, the apps are already there. We're on them. And guess what? You built this one.
Yeah. Well, this one's this app is all about just having a conversation with another person. That's all it is. Something that we've been doing for thousands of years, right? Millions of years, hundreds of thousands of years.
Well, it's very revolutionary actually, because it used to just be hearsay and word of mouth. And back in the oral tradition, it would get edited and changed as it goes from hand to hand. But now what you've got is a way to put a timestamp on it, finalize the recording, and then say, this is what was said. And then they can listen to it. Now, this is very religious. And by the way, you muted yourself. I don't know if you did that on purpose.
I did.
Okay, cool. Oh, and it worked. Wow. Wait, do we have a functioning mute button now on this app?
I'm sorry, Geoff, what was that again?
Do we have a functioning mute button on this app now that does not crash the recording?
Yeah, mute works great. I'm testing it right now, so
cool.
There might be some background noise for a second, but
nice.
Yeah, that's why I was muting.
Okay.
Anyway, sorry, didn't mean to interrupt.
Oh, no worries. Well, it reminds me, and Clubhouse reminded me too of like the time before the Crusades and like the expansion of the church. It used to be a, like storytelling oral tradition where people wouldn't listen to a podcast, they'd listen to a person. And I think that's the interesting kind of duality we have now is like, well, what's my next move? Should I listen to content or go listen to someone live? And like, what's the difference between like produced versus live? And like, how do we think about making a good diet? Because we're always bouncing between new and old. and especially between consuming and creating.
If you're having a conversation with somebody, it doesn't matter whether it's being recorded or not, it is live. So I think
Sure.
that the whatever you get from that, whether it's information or emotion, you're going to get that in a live. That's going to be live input, live feedback, right? As far as experiencing what somebody else is doing, talking or playing a musical instrument or reciting a poem, whatever it is, you can do that in the synchronous way or the asynchronous way. And I think that's where the conversation gets expanded. The fact that we now have a time machine, or we can listen to something in the future, that's cool. And in a way, we take it for granted. Like the fact that now we can record so many things. We haven't even begun to realize what this is going to do in the future. Like you record a conversation with your mother and have that forever, even after she has passed away.
Right. Yeah.
We don't even know what the value in that is yet.
Well, I mean, now, that even though it feels new and exciting, this is really no different technically than a tape recorder.
Still modern technology, though.
Well, now
relatively speaking.
Now its modernity can be deceiving, right? I mean, are we really anywhere different than we were in 1990? From a technical perspective, right? If we keep consistent the ability to speak and listen, which of course are very old technologies themselves.
I think that the reason that are we in a different place in terms of technology? No, not in terms of the buttons we can press and make things happen, but in technology, in what is everybody doing every single day and how are they using it, which is kind of the bigger meaning of the word technology, in my opinion. We are much more advanced. The fact that everybody has a tape recorder now, everybody can use it. everybody can do that anytime they want to, and you do it even when you don't realize you're doing it. When you take a photo with an iPhone, you're actually taking a little video. You don't even realize it, right? Until you actually see the live photo.
Now, not all photos are live photos, though I would say that every photograph is a video. If you see it that way, if you understand what a photograph is, right? Because there is no present moment once you start, once you add in the mathematics of a shutter speed, all of a sudden it is a video. And even a photograph is, the shutter is open for longer than 0, right?
Technically speaking, you're totally right. Yeah. But how somebody consumes a photo versus video, my point is that we're doing things that we're not even realizing. Let me give you another example. I recently updated my iPhone to the latest OS.
Wow. Okay.
And one of the things that it does is it makes these little videos of photos that you've taken over the last month or whatever, and it gives you this little package that says, this was your December, this was your January, these are the beautiful things that happened in your life. You didn't even realize all that time that you were making the scrapbook. You didn't know. So I think that technology hasn't like I said, the buttons that you press, the actual technical thing that's happening isn't changing. It's the way we use it, and it's the way we think about it. And I think that will continue to change, I think.
And the way that other people think about it, because really we live in their world. Even as, artists and creators, we cling to our solitude. But eventually you have to emerge from that solitude and silence and be a person in the world and be someone to somebody else who has seen you before. It's like you can't keep being a stranger. Eventually you need to be known.
What do you think the reasons are that people listen to podcasts? I want like a list of them from the most practical to the most bizarre, or the most emotional. One of the things in building this app that I realized, and you kind of get this from Well, maybe you don't really get this from the live clubhouse conversations as much, but one of the things that I've noticed is that some people want to listen to two people have a conversation so that they don't feel alone anymore. So that
Right.
they feel like they're part of the conversation. They're getting the inside jokes. They're
Mm-hmm.
laughing with somebody else. It's the very sort of casual. These are two people enjoying their time together. We've recorded it so you can enjoy that time in the future with us.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that is the most. I think that is something that we haven't done enough of in the past. We haven't exploited that.
So let me try to answer your question, which is why do people listen to podcasts? I would say that there's three main categories. One is utility, the second is entertainment, and the third is social. Though I could also weave social into both utility and entertainment. Right? I mean, I think one is about survival and one is about enjoyment or what you could call thriving.
What are those? What are those first three again? I'm writing this down.
Utility,
Mm-hmm.
entertainment.
I'm laughing because this is something. This is something that we've talked about so many times. This is our graph. This is what we call. This is
Know
what
your graph,
Eugene Way calls
yes,
his graph:
sir.
utility, entertainment, and
Social, which
social.
is a very tricky word. I mean, I think social is a word
Mm-hmm.
used by people trying to sell you a solution to your loneliness, and they're trying to remind you that you don't belong, but that if you buy their thing or join their club or get on their email list, you will be absolved from the pain of being alone, which may just come from the fear of being left behind.
Right.
So when I say survive, like when I say utility, people listen to podcasts for utility.
And what does that mean?
Well, a human is a social animal. It's very tribal, and to be left behind or forgotten by the tribe is certain death. Because really, we are all alone in a harsh, hostile environment. You know, whether the forest or New York City, it's a cold, hostile, loud environment where survival and protection is kind of not easily found. You sort of have to negotiate and fight to like get a place to stand and be okay.
I think to me the easiest way for me to think about that is the utility is information. That's the utility.
Yes.
So people listen to podcasts because they want information. They want to learn. They want info. They need news. They need something. Hate this word, but practical. They need something practical.
Yeah. Well, I mean, connection, which is another overused word, is practical. Love is practical.
So these three reasons that you mentioned, they're kind of a Venn diagram too, then, because there's some overlap between social and
Oh,
utility.
there is.
And, yeah.
Well, yeah, and I mean, I think for poets at least, like their own survival is entertainment to them. Like, I mean, I guess I can speak for myself here. Like my own getting through my life, I sort of have like a bemused detachment from my own saving myself and my own like going through the motions of what I need to do to get what I need to keep going.
Mm-hmm.
And like that's sort of like the story that I tell, sort of couched in like, well, why do I want to keep living? Why do I want to keep going? You know, and I mean, many philosophers would say suicide is the only real question there is like, why keep going? And I think every day we look for a reason to do it, right? I mean, thank goodness we've sort of awoken from the nightmare of bad news all the time for 4 years. So now it's like, well, it could be better.
I hope you're right about that.
It could be better. I mean,
Hopefully we're awake.
there's still lots of bad news, and there will be a lot of bad news every day for a long time. And we'll probably always be stuck there where the news is bad
Yeah.
and there's a lot of work to do, and it's not done yet.
Well, the entertainment that you mentioned is the way I think about entertainment is diversion. So we use the entertainment so that we don't have to think about those things. I mean, entertainment can mean lots of things. I like the word diversion because if you're comparing it to utility and social uses for something, the the entertainment is the one where I'm not looking to network. I'm not looking
You're not
to.
working.
I'm not working. No, it's the
Yeah.
opposite. I am
Yeah.
looking to get lost.
Yeah.
I'm looking to
Yeah.
forget.
Ooh, man. You remind me of a great quote from Bruce Springsteen. It says, "People don't go to rock shows to learn something. You know,
Mm-hmm.
they go to be reminded of something very deep in themselves." So I mean, I don't think it's diversion. Now, it may look like diversion at first. It may look like it's disconnected from the news, but eventually, you know, if that entertainer is any good, they're going to bring you back and connect you back to the story of the forward motion of time in those very political, economic realities you're trying to divert yourself from, and kind of plant you back in there with the courage and the new vision and sensibility to know what to do and to want to keep going and to assume your role.
I like the word diversion. I don't know why, because to me it's not a negative word at all. I think that it has that connotation. I think of the analog in Spanish. The word divertido is actually the word for fun,
For happy,
for
yeah.
happy,
Yeah.
for happiness, for
God,
fun.
wow, that's good.
And like that's the way I think of entertainment. It's like I want to be diverted to enjoyment. Um, but that's the reason I like that word. No, what you're saying is true. If I didn't mean to suggest that
Oh, sure.
we I didn't mean to suggest that we are escape. We are always trying to escape when we're entertained. And if you do go to a rock show to learn something, then that's probably a good sign that you should either be a musician or a writer
Yeah.
or a curator or something. Because I know that I went to rock shows
So do I.
to learn. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Unless they were really good. If they were really good, then I'm just there to get lost in everything that's happening.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, I
And
mean,
so
I get
just like going to watch a movie, like I hope that I get lost in the story. I hope I do.
sure. Well, I mean, the trouble with being an artist is you can't really just enjoy anymore. Like if I watch a movie or go to a show, and I mean certainly as a musician and a singer myself, like I can't just go and just relax and consume. Like I'm working,
You're
I'm studying,
cursed.
I'm practicing because like if I'm amazed, I mean I remember seeing Trent Reznor of Nine Inch Nails. He was 54 years old. I saw a show of his. He was in San Francisco, December 2018, I think. Um, just an incredible show. And he's 54, which, you know, I mean, as an athlete, 54 is you really got to have been smart for a long time to be 54 and still rolling.
There are not
Now,
very many 54-year-old athletes now.
not to mention like a Mick Jagger, who is still up there. He could probably outdance me, and he's pushing 80, and it's like, goddamn, like that's incredible. But yeah, I mean, it's like if I'm amazed, it's like shit. I need to figure out why I'm amazed and figure out what he's doing, and then I need to go like work on that tomorrow, or like at least keep it in mind as I'm always doing my thing.
I think that most artists are like that, especially especially as you get more experienced as an observer of art. I'm the same way. I mean, like I said, I hope that I can get lost in it. I mean, that means something is really working. If I can lose myself, if I can watch a film and completely forget that I'm watching the film, or the same
Yeah.
reading a book. I can't even read a story without thinking about how it was created. I fucking can't even eat a meal without thinking how it was cooked. So yeah,
Well, that's
it's a curse.
I mean, the curse is also gratitude, and luck. That like, oh, there's someone else who isn't you, who's also doing something with their fullness, just like you're doing your thing, which is always so easy to forget. Like I'm sort of always, I'm often surprised by the existence of others, to just like be reminded, wow, like there are many other people out there, which sounds maybe silly or arrogant or narcissistic to hear me say, which is fine. You can unfollow me. I'm not afraid to lose any follower. I love myself just fine. Um, but yeah, getting lost in someone else's work. I mean, the best artists are completely themselves. And when they're completely themselves, it's an invitation for you to be completely yourself. And they remind you that we are all the same thing. We are all I. We are all the self. We are all me. And
Yeah.
and so when they go to the center of their I, they're inviting you on a journey to follow them. And that's a reminder to both of you that we are all the I. Now, the internet makes that crazy. And I'll quote David Bowie again, who in 1999 noticed all this and said that we haven't even gotten to the tip of the iceberg of what the internet means for what being a human being is. Because all of a sudden we see that the audience and the artist are one, and that we are in the demystification of separateness. And we're doing the same thing together. And that leads right into the interesting, enduring questions of, business and politics and war and power, of the platforms and regulation and the rules and, the market for recordings like this, which is also an invitation back to like the sweetness of like wanting to see it succeed, right? Like we would both want someone else to see this and for them to see themselves in it. But then that becomes an invitation for us to respond to that person. And all of a sudden, boom, there's your community. And there's your life. And there's how you keep going. Is the people who give a shit about you and your growth because they see it as corresponding to their own growth. And I mean, I think you play long enough in the world, right? We're now at year 2021. You play for long enough, and eventually it's like you realize there's no other way to keep going than but with other people and those who care about you, and you care about them back. And that's what life will be. And there's no other life than that. There's nowhere else to go, no other button to push, no strategy to go do except get to know people and be with them. And that's all. And once you're there, it's like, well, what really needs to be said? Like, you don't need to make any more content. It's like, well, we're here. People only make content if you're trying to prove something.
You think so? You think so? I haven't thought about that, but it's
I
that
think
sounds
it's
like a
part
bold
of it.
statement.
It is. Well, I mean,
You're probably right.
no, it's like we are alone, but we can't be alone, and we go it alone, but we aren't alone, and so we need to speak. And I mean, unless you can afford not to. But even then, it's like, you can't really, sure, you can do a silent meditation retreat. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, the human being is a very strange organism. I mean, I've been living in this body for 34 years, and it just gets stranger by the day of like, what is this thing? Right? And it's like, I've called myself, an expert on the human experience. Stupid fucking thing to say. But
might be an expert on your human experience.
Well, I think the arrogance of the artist is I insist that what's personal to me is also relevant to you. But then that takes me listening, right? I then need to pay the cost of, well, you tell me what resonates, and I see if what you say jives with what I think, and then we have a relationship, and then we're both not alone.
Oh, it's the art of bringing like minds together. Is what a lot of people are trying to solve right now. And like you said, we already have the we might already have the tools.
Art. Well, yeah. Well, I mean, the thing in the way is impatience. And I don't know about laziness, but people want it to be easier. Right? I mean, the people who are supposedly trying to bring people together I think they're trying to profit off of it.
Oh, that's definitely true.
Yeah, I
I
mean,
mean, I think that we live in a world that's totally natural. Or we've created a world where that's totally natural. We can't expect anything else. Um, we expect people to create value so that they can be rewarded for it, in money.
well, yeah, and I mean, I think what artists learn, what poets learn, is the greatest reward is the doing. Nothing you can get from someone else is going to be as good or mean as much or be as nourishing as doing the thing again, right? Nothing's better than writing. Nothing's better than throwing my phone down and saying fuck you and going to a typewriter and banging out a page full of fury. There's nothing like, you can pay me $1 million. The feeling of going for it is better than $1 million.
Yeah, I think so. The only thing I could add to that is sometimes, at least for me as a musician, I will take as much or more joy in listening to what I've created than the act of doing it. They're both equally enjoyable, and
That's
they're both the
interesting.
reasons that I do it. But the listening to what I've created is almost like a, and you know what, and one of the reasons this gets really deep and personal for me,
This
but
is good.
one of the reasons that I enjoy it so much is because I actually don't. This is pretty personal, but I actually probably don't believe in myself enough in the process to believe that I could create something as good as I've created, and that is such an exciting feeling because all of a sudden I've tricked myself. I've outdone myself. I have impressed myself, and that is pride, and that's a great thing when you're a musician, when you all of a sudden realize that what you've created is an amazing thing, and that feeling defeats even the excitement that you felt while you were creating it. But I don't
Wow.
know if you are somebody who knows that everything you do is amazing, then what's the joy in listening to anything that you've done? I mean, probably creating it is a more rewarding time.
Wow.
I don't know.
I mean, you just crystallized the whole challenge and the whole world of making stuff. Because like, as you listen to it, as you listen to what you've made, what you're really doing is, in a sense, seeing how it could be listened to by others. Right. The enjoyment of listening to your own stuff is, and maybe once you have integrity, it's knowing that I'm almost like taste testing this for the people I'll share it with. So it's like, oh man, I'm super stoked that I did something that I can also be proud and excited for others to see and to experience in their own like listening world, right? Because a lot of times, like, you'll be the first one to listen to it before you promote it, as it were, or release it, publish it, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And that the intimacy of that is actually like the most beautiful place one can get. Wow, this is really deep and really true.
You know what? I'm really enjoying this conversation right now, and what we're doing is we're making something. So I'm thinking like there is we went over reasons why people listen to podcasts, but the reasons that people create them are different, and they are more rooted in being an artist, I think, because like I'm having a lot of this is a really
Wow.
rewarding conversation to have. I'm
Wow.
enjoying this. I'm excited. I'm thrilled. I don't know what it's going to be like to listen to this. I might listen to this later and think it's
Uh-huh.
garbage. I might love it even more than actually recording it. But I
Right.
am getting something that is either therapeutic or it's I don't know. It's doing something for me. So that's interesting because a lot of people would say, "Oh, why do you host a podcast? Why do you want to host a podcast?" Well, it's to build my brand. It's so that I can get followers. It's so that I can
Yeah.
connect with people. But a lot of people don't realize that it's something way more personal than that makes you want to create, and it could be anything.
I mean, it's
Collaboration.
I mean, it's spiritual too. I mean, when you say artist, what I see is a child who is a renegade from his family. because it's like I can't be seen in this environment how I really am. I'm part of something bigger than my family. I'm part of something bigger than my neighborhood and my school. I'm part of something way bigger than that. And I need to go find a way to initiate myself into that real family that's mine.
That's a
Wow.
very external way to think about being an artist in relation to the rest of the world. I'm sure you're right, but there's probably a lot of artists that aren't even considering that at all. I mean, I don't really know. I mean, this is something we were talking about on Clubhouse the other day, and this like the so far I've talked about um, the wonderful feeling of creating something, and then the wonderful feeling of listening to it or reading it or whatever, that process of sharing it with myself in the future. And then there's and that is the excitement. I get excited because I've made something greater than I thought I was able to do. But also there's the feeling of, oh, I'm going to share this with other people and they're going to love it also. And I'm excited about that. And the idea that your art really doesn't become something, your art really becomes valuable when you share it with other people. Like that is something that is so necessary to so many artists. And a lot of artists are afraid to do that. They're afraid to share their work. I'm afraid to share my work
Sure.
usually. Um, and why? Well, all kinds of reasons, but mainly, well, yeah, mainly just self-doubt, I guess. I don't want to share this
Well,
personal thing with people who aren't going to hear it the way I do. But
it
but then that's like probably what happens when you that's probably what you're talking about when you say this is bigger than my family, this is bigger than my school. I am these external forces in my life are not going to understand what I'm doing, and I need to do something bigger. I don't really know. I've never thought of it that way. You're probably right. I'm sure there are times where I've created something purely because I just wanted something to do in that moment.
well, yeah. I mean, art is also a. I mean, it's a pastime. It's therapy. It's yeah. I mean, I'm really. I mean, it's a pastime. Um, what to do with oneself. I mean that. I mean that's a question you and I have gotten good at answering. And I mean, I think I've got to the point where I'm full up on free time from here until I'm 90. Like I'll never be bored again because there's always, I haven't even touched new wave French cinema. Haven't even touched it. Haven't
You're
haven't even
reserving that one.
haven't even touched it. I mean, there's all these gifts that are bottled up, right? I mean, the past is just throbbing with people who were like us, who were as passionate and bursting and angry and scared and fretful and contradicted, and scared and awake as you and I are, right? You and I have really, I mean, this I think is going to be episode 10. I'm going to try to, keep us on air here and make this a full fleshed episode. Could be the capstone of our work together. Not to not to say that there won't be, 500 more over 30 years, because I think there could be, but like, and I mean, I think this is true for our work collaborators, as well as our friends, as well as our children, as well as our lovers. Is like there's always more if you just listen. There's always like it will never all be said.
And you're talking about experiencing things, right?
I mean, I'm I mean, I'm even
As
just
an expert in human experience.
I mean, yeah. I mean, yeah. Like, there's always more travels to do. There's always more small towns to visit and to sample their food and go see their local artists, right? Like, I mean, again, that Dunbar number. It's like we sort of have like a limited memory, I guess, and like even if you look at the greatest polymaths who have lived, recently, um, even though they can like name a bunch of books and a bunch of places they've traveled, like it's still limited. What you don't do will always outnumber what you do. I mean, I think to be human is to be limited, and to kind of be in awe of all the things you could have done instead, and all the things other people did and do while you did what you did and what you do. But I think everybody is special in that way, in that they are a particular, call it a heat signature of what no one else is doing. Right? So it's like they're a perfect mirror for everybody else. And it's like this is the truth of how everybody listening to this is an artist. Is like you have something to show others. You are a valuable mirror for others because you are not them. You are the only you there is, and there is something in you. Right? I mean, some of the best writing advice I've ever heard is like, this really about encouraging you to publish is like someone out there has a wound and a hole that is in the shape of your words. And like it's your mission to find them. Or to somehow like remove some impurity in you that's blocking you from finding that person. Right? I mean, this is like what you're seeking is seeking you, right? We all want that reader, that listener, that collaborator, that lover, that perfect thing. And it's like, well, what's in the way of it?
What is the friction?
Yeah, I mean, like, what's the what's the magnetism? I mean, I almost see it as like magnets that oppose each other. So it's more about what we each are and the governing forces, right? But it's like love sort of overcomes science. How's that for a line? Love overcomes science. That could be the title of this episode. Though I'm very partial to artists being renegades of their childhood.
Yeah, what was I going to say? We have defeated boredom, right?
We've made it obsolete.
One of the reasons, and you already know this about me because I've talked about it before, but like I think that one of the reasons I feel like I will never be bored again is because there's always been too much for me to learn and do in the world. There's always been too much. However, I don't think I realized that until it was all at my fingertips. I don't think I realized that, and at that moment when I realized that everything is in my hand, everything is right in front of me. Well, now I can't be bored anymore. I won't be. Boredom is something that I've defeated, and that's both a good and a bad thing. But that, weirdly, is technology, and how like I wonder like I remember as a kid having to compete with boredom, having to fight with boredom. I was not often bored as a kid. I was pretty easily amused. Oh, I still am. But I wonder how other people experience that, and if they realize that now everything is just a button away, a tap away.
I mean,
and like how to do we need to even remove more of that friction? Like, how do we make the magnet? Do we make the magnetism stronger? Is that what we do? Is that what this app does, or is that not what we should be doing? I don't really know.
I mean, I think all this. So I wrote a note down while you were saying that. I wrote down. I mean, essentially, like in like a jokey tone. Keyboard and camera your way to safety and being appreciated and protected. So essentially, like what the smartphone offers you, and certainly things like TikTok and Instagram, is like you can personal brand your way to a career. You can be yourself for a living. You can self-actualize through art for a living. Now that is true. Some people do make a living, and I mean, I guess you and I do. But it's like eventually you reach the point where you really think about the audience. You really think about the other. And it's like, and I've had to reckon with this, I mean, just today I stumbled on a work in progress update from 2019, which is a 6,000 page document, which was my life's work up until, call it 2 years ago.
At which point it stopped being your life's work.
I mean, it still is, but I kind of like live in the real world too much now, as opposed to I used to really be living in my head and in my writing.
Must be nice. Must have been nice and terrible at the same time.
It was nice and it was terrible all at the same time. Correct. And it's like, well, eventually you realize that the thing you've made, the only place it can live is in somebody else's input. And you've got to all of a sudden really think about the meaning of taking up space in their world. It's really, I mean, this art stuff is scary and kind of mystical, and certainly transformational, and connects you to the world of death and of absence and of not being here, because you realize that the space you're going to take up is in their life. Right? This recording, it's now 41 minutes and 11 seconds. Like, it's going to live in someone's day. It's going to be something that they listened to. And that's sort of a shocking thing to remember. But it reminds you that art is real and love is real, and that we are here, and death is real and time is real. And I don't know, this is the diversion. When I say diversion from the news, it's like, this is what makes the news make sense. This is what makes economics and money and war make sense, is realizing we are going to die. We are on this rock flying through space. It is beautiful, and it doesn't last. And it's always changing. And it needs to be fought for to be kept this way.
Yeah. Well, I really hope whoever is listening to this has gotten plenty of utility and entertainment and social value. Because if you are listening to this, you should probably reach out and say hello, and then let us know if it was entertaining and if you learned anything.
Yeah. Well,
because that would be very interesting to find out if this is that if we're actually to find out, which of those values, which of those ways we are living in your day.
Yeah, and like what they call it, right? Now, I mean, this is what's funny about this notion of having a brand, is it's not what you say about you. It's what other people say about you. That's what your brand really is. What other people say you are and what they remind you of. What you remind them of, right? How they frame what you are. How they would talk about you to someone else, right? Now that's also, certainly the use of poetry, but also painting and comedy and, things like sitcoms, is they give people a way to express themselves to others, right? It's like they'll share a show or a quote with somebody to express something about themselves. Rather than use their own original words, they'll find something that they feel speaks for them or speaks to them, and they'll share that with somebody else, right? When people send memes, it's essentially saying, that's me. It's saying, this is me. This is what I think, this is what I feel. Even though they didn't make it, but they found it, they chose it, and they made the choice to send it to that friend. So, that's what we do when we make these artifacts, right? This will now be a YouTube link that's in the whole constellation of other YouTube links, being born at the same moments as everyone else who's recording stuff, because now everyone records stuff, right? And if you get your way, everyone will be using this app and having such conversations and recording them. And then we get to decide, when we go back to Twitter, when we go back to the computer, and we get to decide what we want to eat next of the massive buffet of content that's there between comedy and lectures and painting and plays and people thinking out loud and suffering and the news and votes and climate statistics.
That is a much bigger whatever you call it, issue, problem, concern, like how all this stuff ends up in your day, your diet. I
Well,
wonder, you and I think about that a lot.
well, because we've lived there a long time. I mean, we've lived at the feed.
The feed, yes.
But it's a beautiful place. I mean, I love my life. I love the people in it. And I've made careful choices of who to keep, and I also have a what the American writer Ernest Hemingway said, a shock-proof shit detector, which is what he says any writer needs. Like I know how to spot people, desperately self-actualizing and trying to be seen as beautiful. Like I see through it to the loneliness. Right now, trust me, I enjoy my Instagram Discover tab and cute young hot girls doing dances on TikTok. Fantastic stuff. Now, I also know that's from loneliness and that they're trying to get some love that can't be given to them, that you can only give yourself. Right? Wisdom takes a long time to get to. And you got to go through every step of the way and live out every year of your life until you live enough and you realize what won't change.
God, when do you figure that out?
Well, I mean, it's
a pain. That's actually a painful lesson, I think, that some people learn. Yeah.
It is pain. Well, I mean, yeah, life is pain. It hurts to keep on walking because your back hurts and your knees hurt, And I mean, back and knees in the proverbial metaphorical sense as well as the physical one. Right? I mean, when I think back on my 20s, it was, getting up again, going into the arena, trying to do good, trying to do good enough, trying to get noticed, trying to get praise from the praiseworthy. That was the name of the game. Do something good enough that you would get praise for it. Essentially replaying the drama of childhood that no one ever really gets that far away from. Even someone who's 60 or 70, you're just a child who's had more time to think about it. That's really what I see now. It's like, well, I'm a 6-year-old with 28 years of experience. I'm a senior 6-year-old. I finally understand the job of being 6 years old. I finally know how to say what I meant to say then and what I've been trying to say for 25 years. Now I know how to say it.
Senior 6-year-olds. That's Geoff and Geoff.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a senior director 6-year-old. I'm a senior staff 6-year-old. I am
6-year-old.
Professor emeritus of being 6 years old, practitioner, licensed professional, clinician of being 6 years old.
Well, I should probably wrap up this conversation soon. Wonder what's a good way to end it.
Well, yeah, I mean, so much like a soccer or football match, we're in the 49th minute. Ooh, is that you on keys?
It's a ukulele, actually.
Yes.
But keep talking. I'll just make some music.
Okay, cool. Well, we're going to call this the 10th episode of Geoff Lewis and Jeffrey J. Byron doing these art talks. We met, so Geoff, my counterpart here, is 40 years old. I, Geoff with a G, 34 years old. We met on the internet, introduced by an internet friend who brought together a group of artists and cryptocurrency enthusiasts in a group chat on Twitter, which is a blogging service. And he is a musician, and he played and toured with some bands that I really like. And so he could tell me things I didn't know. And I was crazy and interesting to him. And so we kept jamming. And we decided to make a creative baby. And we've now made our 10th episode of these art talks. And just a reminder of what is true between people and what can always be done. And there's more to say and more to hear, but it's also like, goddamn, we survived the past. Not many. Many people didn't. Many didn't survive the past, and so I don't know. We're all pilgrims on the journey, walking each other home. So all I have is gratitude and wonder and awe to anyone who came on this journey with us. And as Geoff said, our DMs are open. There's nowhere to go but community. There's nowhere to go but other people. There's nowhere to go but being here with each other while we are still here on this earth with each other. So yeah, thank you.
All right.
Wow.
Let's
Thank you.
stop.
Okay.